Wearing 4-inch stiletto heels, I pushed open the door to the CEO's office at Royal Group. The scene inside instantly froze me in place. My husband, Marcus, had my best friend, Chloe, pressed against the office desk, their bodies intimately entwined. They were completely oblivious to my arrival. "Marcus, are you really going to divorce Grace?" Chloe whispered breathlessly. "Of course, I'm sick of her. Don't worry, once this project is over, I'll confront her. I'll transfer all my company shares, and she won't get a single thing." Marcus's voice carried a coldness I'd never heard before. My cell phone slipped from my hand, hitting the floor with a sharp crack. They instantly separated. Marcus looked at me, his face pale. "Grace, let me explain." I bent down to pick up my cell phone, a perfect fake smile on my face. "No need to explain. I saw everything." Chloe hastily straightened her clothes, a flicker of triumph in her eyes. "Grace, I'm sorry, but we genuinely love each other." Hearing that, I bit back the urge to tear her face apart. This woman, 3 years ago, I personally brought her into the company, gave her the best resources, and loved her like a sister. And she, in turn, seduced my husband. "If that's the case, then let's get a divorce," I said calmly. Marcus froze, clearly not expecting me to be so calm. "Grace, tomorrow, we'll go to the courthouse for the proceedings. I'll have the divorce papers ready." With that, I turned and left. The moment I stepped out of the office, my tears finally fell. 5 years of marriage, 10 years of a relationship, all destroyed in an instant. But I quickly wiped away my tears. "Grace, you can't just let this go." Did they think I'd just let them off the hook? I returned to my office, took out my cell phone, and dialed a number. "Hello, it's me, Grace. I need your help." The next day, I arrived at the courthouse on time. Marcus was already waiting there, with Chloe standing beside him. I walked over and handed him the divorce papers I had prepared. "Take a look at these divorce papers. If everything's in order, we can sign." Marcus took the divorce papers, a surprised expression on his face. "Grace, are you sure you want to leave with nothing?" The divorce papers clearly stated that I was giving up all assets, including real estate, shares, and savings. "Yes," I said blandly. Chloe snickered beside him. Grace truly knows when to be sensible. I glanced at her, smiling but saying nothing. Soon, our divorce proceedings were finalized. The moment we walked out of the courthouse, Marcus grabbed my hand. "Grace, we could actually." "Marcus, since we're divorced, there's no need to say any more." I pulled my hand away from his. "I wish you and Chloe happiness." With that, I left without looking back. Once in the car, I took out my cell phone and dialed an international number. "You can start the operation." My friend abroad was Marcus's biggest competitor. And the divorce papers I had just signed were, in fact, a trap. Grace, never do business at a loss. I was going to make them understand the consequences of betraying me, Grace. 3 days after the divorce, I packed my belongings and moved out of the mansion. Marcus and Chloe expected me to throw a fit, but my calmness caught them off guard. "Grace is so calm, it's a bit strange," Chloe whispered into Marcus's ear. Marcus frowned. "Forget it. We're divorced anyway. She can do whatever she wants." What they didn't know was that on the very night I moved out, someone quietly entered the mansion. It was the private investigator I hired, there to install listening devices in the mansion. I wanted to know their every move. At the same time, I initiated the first step of my plan. Royal Group's biggest current project was a commercial real estate development in collaboration with an overseas investor. Valued at $100 million, this project was Marcus's most crucial business venture this year. What he didn't know was that the overseas investor was my childhood friend's company. I dialed my childhood friend's number. "Amy, it's me, Grace." "Grace, I heard you got married. How have you been?" "I'm divorced." "Amy, I need a favor. Could your company's collaborative project with Royal Group be put on hold?" There was a few seconds of silence on the other end. "What happened?" Amy asked. I briefly told her about Marcus's infidelity. Amy said furiously, "That's outrageous. A person like that isn't worth our company's investment. His character is clearly flawed, not to mention the company's reputation." "Grace, don't worry, I'll halt this project immediately." "Thank you, Amy." After hanging up, I smiled with satisfaction. Step 1. Cut off their funding. The next morning, Marcus received notice that the overseas investor was withdrawing funding. Why the sudden withdrawal? Marcus demanded loudly over the phone. The other party simply said coldly, "We apologize, but we've decided to terminate this partnership." After hung up, his face was ashen. He had already invested $30 million in initial funding for this project. If the funding was withdrawn, the company would face a massive capital shortfall. Marcus, what's wrong? Chloe asked with concern. The project has run into trouble. The investor suddenly withdrew funding. Marcus rubbed his temples, agitated. A flicker of worry crossed Chloe's eyes. What will we do then? Will the company be in danger? Don't worry, I'll figure something out, Marcus reassured her. But he knew deep down that this crisis was significant. What he didn't expect was that this was only the beginning. Step 2. Cut off their bank loans. I arranged meetings with several bank loan department heads. These were all former colleagues from my time in the finance industry. Grace, I heard you got divorced? Richard looked at me sympathetically. Yes. I need your help. I presented a document. Royal Group's current financial situation is actually very grim. I sue. Guessed you reassess their credit line. Richard looked at the document and said in surprise, are these figures accurate? Absolutely. Marcus misappropriated a significant amount of funds for project investments, and the company's cash flow is already problematic. I had quietly collected all this information during my marriage. As wife, I had an intimate knowledge of the company's financial status. I understand. We'll reevaluate their loan application, Richard nodded. Over the next few days, Royal Group repeatedly received banks' demand for repayment notices. Funds that were supposed to be smoothly renewed were suddenly recalled by the banks. Marcus was as agitated as a cat on a hot tin roof. Why did these banks suddenly turn against us? He fumed in his office. Chloe tried to comfort him. Marcus, don't worry, let's think of another way. What other way is there? The company's accounts don't even have enough to pay employee salaries, Marcus said exasperatedly. Just then, Marcus's cell phone rang. It was a call from one of his friends. Marcus, I heard your company is in trouble. Who told you that? Marcus asked warily. It's all over social media circles. They're saying your capital chain is broken and you could collapse at any moment. Marcus's face grew even darker. After hanging up, he looked at Chloe. Chloe, do you think Grace is behind all this? Chloe paused. No way? What kind of schemes could she possibly orchestrate? Don't underestimate her. Grace has extensive connections in the finance industry. If she's trying to get revenge on us. The more Marcus thought about it, the more he felt something was off. Grace was too calm during the divorce. It wasn't like her. And now, with the company facing one problem after another, the timing was just too coincidental. No, I have to go find her. Marcus stood up and headed for the door. Chloe quickly stopped him. Marcus, why would you go see her? Even if she is behind this, do you have any proof? Mar has stopped, clenching his fists. He knew Chloe was right, but the rage in his heart wouldn't subside. Grace, if you are truly orchestrating all of this behind the scenes, I won't let you succeed. Royal Group's crisis grew increasingly severe. Not only did banks recall their loans, but even some partners began canceling orders. Marcus was overwhelmed with stress every day, and Chloe had lost her former smugness. Meanwhile, I was leisurely sipping coffee in a coffee shop. Grace, that was a ruthless move. Ethan, the lawyer sitting opposite me, said with a smile. Ethan was my university classmate and a crucial assistant in my plan. This is just the beginning, I said, taking a sip of coffee. The real show is yet to come. What's your next move? Step 3, cutting off their lifeline. I pulled out my cell phone and showed him a text message. The message was from Marcus. Grace, we need to talk. He's starting to suspect you? Ethan asked. A normal reaction. But suspicion is just suspicion. He has no proof, I said, putting away my phone. Besides, he's about to be overwhelmed with his own problems. That afternoon, I arrived at a private club as arranged. Marcus was already waiting in the private room, his face haggard, eyes bloodshot. Grace, you're behind all this, aren't you? He demanded the moment he saw me. I calmly sat down and poured myself a cup of tea. Marcus, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Stop pretending. The timing of the company's troubles is too coincidental. Who else but you has the ability to do this? Marcus slapped the table agitatedly. I frowned. Please watch your tone. We're divorced, and you have no right to yell at me. Grace. Marcus's voice was practically squeezed through his teeth. And, I continued, even if I did have this ability, so what? You betrayed me. Isn't it perfectly normal for me to seek revenge? Marcus was stunned, clearly not expecting me to admit it so directly. You. However, I must clarify yes. Oh nothing, I said, looking him in the eyes. The company's problems aren't my doing, they're your own. The investors withdrew funding because they discovered your misappropriation of funds, And the banks were called loans because your company genuinely has financial risks. These were all facts. I merely gave them a push. Marcus was speechless, because he knew everything I said was true. Grace, we used to be husband and wife. You can't do this to me. His tone softened. I stood up, ready to leave. Marcus, good luck with your choices. Wait. Marcus hurriedly called out to me. Grace, I beg you, let the company go. There are hundreds of employees there. They're innocent. I stopped and looked back at him. This man, he was once the person I loved most. But now, I only felt revulsion. Marcus, don't forget, half of Royal Group's initial capital came from my dowry. When you betrayed me, did you ever think of me? Grace, now you come begging me? Too late. I left without looking back. Walking out of the private club, I immediately called Ethan. You can proceed with the next step. Understood. Ethan had everything ready. Next, I was going to deliver Marcus's most fatal blow. The next day, Royal Group received a court summons. Someone was suing them for unpaid construction fees, demanding to freeze company accounts. Marcus looked at the summons, his face pale. How could this happen? We clearly paid this construction fee. The finance manager said timidly, CEO, the other party claims we paid with a fraudulent check. A fraudulent check? Marcus was stunned. Just then, Chloe walked in. Marcus, what's wrong? Someone claims we paid construction fees with a fraudulent check, and now the court is going to freeze company accounts, Marcus said despairingly. Chloe's face also changed. What should we do then? I don't know. I really don't know what to do anymore. Marcus slumped into his chair, his eyes filled with despair. Once the company's accounts were frozen, it would be completely over. Employee salaries couldn't be paid, suppliers couldn't be compensated, let alone repaying bank loans. And all of this was within my expectations. That so-called fraudulent check was actually my doing. During my marriage, I had partial access to the company's financial permissions. Before the divorce, I quietly swapped one of the checks. Now, this check became the last straw. That afternoon, Royal Group officially announced bankruptcy liquidation. After the news broke, the entire business world was stunned. The once glorious Royal Group had collapsed just like that. Meanwhile, I was leisurely watching the news report at home. In the report, Marcus, his face haggard, faced reporters' questions. Mr. Marcus, what's the reason for the company's bankruptcy? It's due to my poor management. Marcus's voice was hoarse. Watching him on television, I felt not a shred of pity. The price of betrayal was exactly this. News of Royal Group's bankruptcy spread throughout the city. Overnight, Marcus transformed from a business elite into a bankrupt failure. And, too, went from being a smug mistress to a frightened and pathetic figure. Through the listening devices, I heard their conversation in the mansion. Marcus, what do we do now? Chloe's voice was tearful. I don't know either. Marcus replied dejectedly. The banks are still demanding payment. If we can't pay them back, we won't even have a place to live. I know. Do you think I'm not worried? Marcus flared up. A silence followed. Then, I heard Chloe's cautious voice. Marcus, why don't we go beg Grace? After all, you two were once married. Beg her? Marcus sneered. Do you think she'll help us? Let's try. We really have no other options. Hearing this, I turned off the listening devices. They want to beg me? Interesting. The next day, I received a call from Marcus. Grace, can I see you? His voice held an unprecedented humbleness. Yes, meet me at our usual spot. An hour later, I arrived the coffee shop punctually. Marcus was already waiting there, with Chloe sitting beside him. Both looked utterly haggard, completely devoid of their former arrogance. After I sat down, I went straight to the point. Just tell me what you want. Marcus was silent for a few seconds, then bowed deeply. Grace, I was wrong. Please forgive me. Chloe also bowed. Grace, it was all my fault. I destroyed your marriage. I looked at them expressionlessly, and then? Please help us. We really can't pay back the bank debts. Marcus pleaded. Why should I help you? I countered. Because we used to be friends, Chloe said weakly. Friends? I sneered. Do friends seduce their friends' husbands? Chloe's face flushed red, and she lowered her head. Marcus continued. Grace, I know I wronged you, but Chloe is innocent. I was the one who pursued her. Innocent? I looked at Chloe. Chloe, do you think you're innocent? Chloe dared not meet my eyes, just shaking her head repeatedly. Grace, we're willing to do anything to atone for our mistakes, Marcus said. Anything? I raised an eyebrow. Yes, anything. I was silent for a moment, then slowly began. All right, I'll give you a chance. Hope instantly ignited in their eyes. But there are conditions, I continued. What conditions? Marcus asked eagerly. First, Marcus, you must issue a public apology in the newspaper, admitting your wrongdoing. That's fine, Marcus said, gritting his teeth. Second, Chloe, you must publicly admit to being the mistress to the whole company and resign voluntarily. Chloe's face turned pale. Grace, if I do that, how will I ever survive in this industry? That's the price you pay for betraying me, I said coldly. They exchanged glances, clearly hesitating. I stood up, preparing to leave. It seems you haven't truly recognized your mistakes. Wait. Marcus quickly stopped me. I agree to your conditions. Marcus. Chloe looked at him in disbelief. Chloe, we have no choice. Marcus said bitterly. I sat back down. Very well, then do as I say. So when will you help us pay off our debts? Marcus asked. I offered a meaningful smile. We'll discuss that after you've done what I asked. After leaving the coffee shop, I called Ethan. They agreed? Ethan asked. They did. So you're really going to help them? Help them? I sneered. Ethan, have you forgotten who I am? I understand. Ethan also smiled. Then let's wait for the show. The next day, Marcus indeed published a public apology letter in the newspaper. In the letter, he admitted to his act of betrayal during our marriage and publicly apologized to me. The apology letter, once published, immediately became the laughingstock of the entire city. And, as agreed, also admitted her identity as the mistress at the company. Although the company was already bankrupt, many employees still heard what she said. Soon, the news spread throughout the entire industry. After completing these tasks, the two approached me again. Grace, we've done as you asked. Can you help us now? Marcus asked expectantly. I took out a check and handed it to them. Here's $50,000. It should be enough for you to get through this temporary difficulty. Marcus took the check, his face instantly changing. 50,000? Grace, the bank's debt is 50 million. This amount is nowhere near enough. Did I ever say I'd help you pay off your debts? I countered. I merely said I'd give you a chance. Marcus and Chloe were both dumbfounded. Grace, are you playing tricks on us? Marcus demanded angrily. Playing tricks on you? I stood up. Yes, I am. You're too vicious. Chloe also said angrily. Vicious? I sneered. Compared to you two, what is this? With that, I left without looking back. Marcus's furious shouts echoed behind me, but I paid them no mind. Soon after, the banks initiated enforcement proceedings against Marcus. The mansion was sealed, and his cars were repossessed. Marcus and Chloe were forced to move into a rundown rental apartment. It was a swift descent from heaven to hell. Meanwhile, I was preparing to launch my new company, Graceful Consulting LLC. This was the beginning of my comeback. Grace, your speed is incredible, Ethan said, looking at the company registration documents I handed him. Opportunity waits for no one, I said calmly. Are you really planning to enter the investment industry? Of course, and my first investment target has already been determined. I took out a document and handed it to him. Ethan looked at it and said in surprise, Starlight? Isn't that where Chloe used to work? Exactly, I replied with a confident smile. Starlight was a mid-sized entertainment company, where Chloe used to work as a talent agent. The company owner, Collins, was a lecherous individual. From what I gathered, Chloe's rapid promotion was closely linked to her special relationship with Collins. Now, I was going to use that to my advantage. The next day, I proactively arranged a meeting with Collins. In an upscale restaurant, Collins, smiling broadly, shook my hand. Ms. Grace, I've heard so much about you. I understand you're interested in investing in our company? Yes, Starlight has great potential, and I'm very optimistic about it, I said, elegantly cutting my steak. Then, Ms. Grace, how much are you considering investing? Collins asked, his eyes glinting with greed. $30 million, for a 40% stake. Collins nearly choked on his drink. 30 million? What, is that too little? I asked coolly. No, that figure is perfectly reasonable. Collins quickly waved his hand. For a small company like Starlight, $30 million was indeed a huge sum. However, I have one small condition, I said, putting down my knife and fork. What condition? I need to be involved in the company's personnel management, especially regarding staff changes in key positions. Collins hesitated. Well, don't worry, see. Collins, I won't interfere with your normal operations. I simply wish to weed out some employees with questionable conduct. My words carried a hidden meaning, and Collins understood. He thought for a moment and finally nodded in agreement. "No problem, Ms. Grace, your request is very reasonable." "Then it's settled," I said, extending my hand. "A pleasure doing business with you." After signing the contract, I immediately initiated the first personnel adjustment. The target was Chloe's friend and colleague, Mia. Mia was Chloe's close friend at Starlight. The two often frequented various places together. According to my investigation, Mia knew about Chloe and Marcus's relationship and even helped cover it up. Naturally, such a person couldn't remain in the company. "Collins, what about Mia's work performance?" I asked, holding her personnel file. Collins looked at the file, his expression slightly unnatural. "Her capabilities are average, but she's Chloe's friend." "Chloe? You mean the mistress who already resigned?" I feigned ignorance. "You know about that, Miss Grace?" Collins seemed a bit surprised. "The entertainment industry is small. Nothing stays a secret for long," I said blandly. "Collins, do you think it's appropriate for the company to retain friends of someone with such questionable conduct?" Collins immediately understood my meaning. "You're right. I'll arrange for her termination at once." The next day, Mia received her termination notice. She frantically called Chloe. "Chloe, I've been fired from the company." "Why?" Chloe's voice came through the phone. "I don't know. HR said it was a strategic adjustment and they're downsizing." "But why me, of all people?" Mia's voice was full of grievance and resentment. "Could it be?" Chloe's voice paused. "Could it be what?" Mia pressed, her tone urgent. "Nothing. I'll try to think of a way to help you," Chloe said, trying to reassure her. But she could barely protect herself now. How could she possibly help Any else? Over the next few days, I made consecutive adjustments, targeting several more employees closely associated with Chloe. Soon, Chloe's social media circles began buzzing with speculation. "Chloe, did you offend someone? Why is everyone connected to you being targeted?" "Yeah, it's too much of a coincidence, isn't it?" Facing her friend's suspicions, Chloe also began to wonder. She thought of one person, Grace. "Marcus, I think Grace is behind all this," Chloe told Marcus. "Do you have any proof?" Marcus asked weakly. After the blows he'd suffered recently, he had become neurasthenic, his mental state severely deteriorated. "No direct evidence, but the timing is just too coincidental," Chloe analyzed. "So what? We can barely protect ourselves now," Marcus said despairingly. Chloe gritted her teeth. "I'm going to find her." "Find her? Are you insane?" "We have nothing left to lose," Chloe said resolutely. That afternoon, Chloe appeared downstairs from my office. She looked utterly haggard, completely devoid of her former glamour. "Grace, I know you're behind all this," she stormed into my office, shouting. I looked up and calmly gazed at her. "Miss Chloe, please watch your language. This is my company, not a marketplace. Stop pretending. Mia and the others were fired, it must be your doing." "Miss Chloe, do you have any proof?" I countered. Chloe was speechless. "If you have no proof, please don't cause a scene here," I said, standing up. "Security, please escort this woman out." Soon, the security guards entered. "Grace, I beg you, please let us go," Chloe pleaded. "We truly know we were wrong. Please, give us a way out." Looking at Chloe kneeling on the floor, I felt not a shred of pity. "Chloe, when you seduced my husband, did you ever think of giving me a way out?" "Security, show her out." I didn't want to see her anymore. Chloe was dragged out by security, her cries echoing in the hallway. But none of that concerned me anymore. Not long after, I received even more shocking news. Marcus had been hospitalized. "What's the situation?" I called the private investigator who informed me. "They say it was due to excessive stress, a complete mental breakdown. He's currently receiving treatment at a psychiatric hospital." The detective's voice carried a hint of schadenfreude, as if he were discussing irrelevant gossip. I had thought Marcus would struggle longer, but I hadn't expected him to be so fragile. "What about Chloe?" "She's at the hospital taking care of him, but she looks like she's about to collapse too." After hanging up, I fell into deep thought. Originally, I had prepared further plans, but now it seemed they weren't necessary. Marcus had completely broken down, a more thorough revenge than I had imagined. But for some reason, I didn't feel the surge of satisfaction I'd expected. Instead, there was an empty feeling. Was this the taste of revenge? That evening, I sat alone at home, a glass of red wine in my hand. Recalling the past few months, from discovering the betrayal to executing my revenge, I felt as if I had become a different person. Ruthless, vicious, and unscrupulous. This version of myself felt strange even to me. After much hesitation, I decided to go see them. This time, I didn't conceal my identity. I walked openly into the hospital room. When saw me, a complex array of emotions flickered across his face. Anger, shame, helplessness, all intertwined. Grace. His voice was very weak. Are you feeling better? I asked calmly. A bit, he nodded, then looked at Chloe. Chloe, please step out for a moment. I want to talk to Grace alone. Chloe hesitated, but eventually left the hospital room. Only and I remained in the room. Grace, Marcus began, I know I wronged you. Good that you know, I said, my tone flat. I don't blame you for seeking revenge. I deserve it, he said with a bitter smile. You won. I've completely lost. This isn't about winning or losing, I said, looking at him. Marcus. We once loved each other, but you chose to betray me. I was simply protecting myself. I know, he nodded. Grace, if time could turn back, would you still marry me? That question made me silent for a long time. If time could turn back, would I still marry him? No, I finally answered. Why? A flicker of disappointment crossed Marcus's eyes. Because someone who betrays is inherently untrustworthy, I said calmly. Even if we started over, you would still betray me. Hearing that, a look of pain flashed in Marcus's eyes. Do you hate me now? Not anymore, I shook my head. Hating someone is too exhausting. I've let it go. Let it go. Marcus murmured, repeating those words. Marcus, I said, standing up to leave, focus on your recovery. When you're released from the hospital, start your life anew. Grace, he called out to me. Is there anything else? I'm sorry. I paused, then said, I accept your apology. Walking out of the hospital room, I saw Chloe standing in the hallway. Seeing me emerge, she hurried over. Grace, how is Marcus? He's fine, I said, looking at her. Chloe, I also have something to say to you. Though I dislike you intensely right now, I won't trouble you anymore. Take good care of him, after all, you chose to be together. Chloe looked surprised. You're not going to seek revenge anymore? My revenge is over, I said blandly. From today forward, we have no further ties. With that, I left the hospital without looking back. The anger and hatred that had built up in my heart finally completely dissipated. Afterward, I focused on building my own career. Graceful Consulting LLC developed rapidly under my management, becoming a rising star in the industry within just a few months. And I, too, gradually found myself again. No longer the betrayed, resentful woman, but an independent and self-reliant one. 6 months later, my company had become one of the most successful investment firms in the city. I became a well-known figure in the business world, frequently invited to various corporate events. At a charity gala, I encountered someone unexpected. Grace? Is that really you? I turned my head and saw a familiar figure. It was my university classmate, Andrew, our class president from back then, now the Asia president of a multinational corporation. Andrew, long time no see, I said, smiling as I shook his hand. What a coincidence. I just got back from overseas and didn't expect to run into you. His eyes sparkled with excitement. You're still as beautiful as ever. No, I should say you're even more charismatic now. Thank you for the compliment, I replied elegantly. I heard you're now the owner of an investment company? That's impressive. It's all right. Just a small company. We talked for a long time, from our college days to our current careers. The atmosphere was very pleasant. Grace, if you don't mind, we should keep in touch, Andrew said as we parted. Of course, I'd like that very much. Returning home that night, I was in a good mood. Andrew was a wonderful man, mature, steady, successful in his career, and he had always shown a liking for me. Perhaps it was time to consider my new relationship. Grace, do you know? I liked you since college. One day, Andrew confessed his feelings for me. But back then, you were with Marcus, and I could only hide my feelings. Now, I finally have the chance to pursue you. I looked at his sincere eyes, and a wave of warmth spread through my heart. Andrew, You don't have to answer me right away, he said gently. I can wait. I just want you to know that I'm serious. That night, I lay in bed, thinking for a long time. Did I have feelings for Andrew? Yes, I did. Was I willing to be with him? I wasn't sure. After his betrayal, I had become much more cautious about relationships. I was afraid of being hurt again. But I also didn't want to miss out on true happiness because of past shadows. The next day, I proactively called Andrew. Andrew, I want to talk to you. Okay, I'll be right over. An hour later, Andrew appeared at my office. Grace, what did you want to talk about? He asked, a hint of nervousness in his voice. About our relationship, I said directly. I need to tell you some things about my past. I told him in detail about everything that had happened between Marcus and me. including the betrayal, the revenge, and the eventual resolution. Andrew listened quietly, not interrupting me. Now that you know about my past, I said, looking at him after I finished, are you still willing to be with me? Andrew was silent for a moment, then took my hand. Grace, everyone has a past. Yours won't change my feelings for you. On the contrary, I admire your strength and courage even more. I'm willing to face the future with you, no matter what happens. Hearing his words, my eyes welled up. Andrew. So, will you be my girlfriend? He asked earnestly. I nodded. Yes, I will. In that moment, I felt a happiness I hadn't experienced in a long time. It wasn't the thrill of successful revenge, but because I had found someone who truly loved me. We embraced, and I felt a sense of security I'd never known before. Perhaps, this was the feeling of a new beginning. Just as I was immersed in the sweetness of my new relationship, unexpected news arrived. Marcus and Chloe broke up. What? They broke up? I was a little surprised. Yes, apparently Chloe was cheating, Ethan reported over the phone. She left him for a wealthy boss, for the money. Hearing this, I felt a mix of emotions. I never thought Chloe would eventually go down that path. What about Marcus? How is he? I heard he was pretty shaken, but this time he didn't have a mental breakdown, he's just very down. After hanging up the phone, I fell into deep thought. It turns out betrayal is contagious. Chloe betrayed me, and now she had betrayed Marcus. But I no longer felt anything towards them. There was no anger, no sympathy, not even a hint of schadenfreude. Only peace remained in my heart. Because I had a new life, a new love. The people and events of the past no longer mattered to me. What mattered was the present and the future. A year later, Andrew and my relationship grew increasingly stable. We even started discussing getting married. Grace, when do you think would be a good time for us to get married? Andrew asked gently. When do you want to? I countered. The sooner the better. I can't wait to marry you, he said, smiling. Then next spring. Spring is a beautiful season. Okay, next spring. Andrew happily kissed me. Just as we were preparing for our wedding, an unexpected visitor appeared. It was a Saturday afternoon, and I was relaxing at home when the doorbell suddenly rang. I looked through the peephole and froze. It was Marcus. He stood outside the door, looking much more haggard, but his mental state seemed normal enough. I hesitated for a moment, then opened the door. Marcus? What are you doing here? Grace, I'd like to talk to you. His voice was calm. Please give me a few minutes, I have something important to tell you. Seeing the sincerity in his eyes, I eventually let him in. All right, what is it? I said, sitting on the sofa and keeping my distance. Marcus sat opposite me, remaining silent for a moment before speaking. Grace, I came here to apologize to you. Apologize? I was a little surprised. Haven't you already apologized? That one didn't count, he shook his head. I was sick and not in my right mind then, so my words weren't valid. This time, I'm truly and sincerely apologizing to you. I know I was wrong. I betrayed you, betrayed our marriage. I also know that nothing I say can make up for the pain I caused you. But I still wanted to say I'm sorry. I looked at him, feeling no ripple of emotion in my heart. I accept your apology, I said calmly. And there's something else, Marcus continued. I want to tell you something. What is it? It's about CH. Low. His voice was bitter. She betrayed me. I know, I nodded. You know? He asked, surprised. I have my own sources. Marcus gave a bitter laugh. Right, with your capabilities, something like that wouldn't be hidden from you. How do you feel now? I asked. It's very painful, he answered honestly. Just as painful as when you found out I cheated. Now, I finally understand how you felt back then. Being betrayed by someone you trusted is truly agonizing. I was silent for a moment, then said, Marcus, this is karma. I know, he nodded. I deserved it. However, I looked at him, since you now realize your mistakes, take time to reflect. People always have to be responsible for their own actions. I will. He stood up, preparing to leave. Grace, one last question. Are you doing well now? Very well, I replied with a smile. I have a new career, a new love, everything is going great. That's good, Marcus said, a bitter smile on his face. You deserve the best life. Marcus, I called out as he was about to leave, since everything is over, I hope you can also start over. Let go of the past and live well. Thank you. He nodded, then left without looking back. Watching his retreating back, I felt a mix of emotions. We had once been so deeply in love. But betrayal had destroyed everything. Now, we had both learned to let go. Perhaps this was the best ending. After closing the door, I called Andrew. Andrew, where are you? At the office, handling some things. Why? Nothing, just wanted to hear your voice. Grace, your voice sounds a little strange. Did something happen? No, I'm fine. I just ran into someone from the past. Do you need me to come be with you? No, I'm fine. Then I'll come home early tonight to be with you. Okay, I'll wait for you. After hanging up, I walked onto the balcony and looked at the city view in the distance. The sun was setting, painting the sky with an evening glow. Everything seemed so beautiful. I once thought revenge would make me happy, but it turns out true happiness comes from letting go of hatred and embracing a new life. The me now is no longer the bitter woman who had been betrayed, but an independent, strong woman with love. This is the life I want. 3 months later, Andrew and I had our wedding. The wedding was grand, with many friends and business associates in attendance. As I walked down the aisle in my white wedding dress, hand in hand with Andrew, towards the sacred altar, I felt a happiness I had never known. This time, I was marrying the man who truly loved me. This time, I wouldn't be betrayed again. At the wedding venue, I saw a figure in the distance. It was Marcus. He stood at the edge of the crowd, quietly watching me. When our eyes met, he nodded, then turned and left. In that moment, I knew that everything had truly ended. The loves, hates, and grievances of the past had all faded with the wind. Now, I only wanted to walk towards a beautiful future with the man who loved me. After the wedding, Andrew and I went to the Maldives for our honeymoon. On the beach, watching the sunset over the horizon, I felt an inner peace. Grace, what are you thinking about? Andrew asked, holding me close. I'm thinking about our future, I said, leaning into his embrace. Our future will definitely be beautiful, he whispered in my ear. Yes, it will be. I closed my eyes, savoring the tranquility of the moment. From revenge to letting go, from pain to rebirth, I had finally found my own happiness. This is my story, a story of betrayal, revenge, forgiveness, and rebirth. May everyone who has been hurt, like me, ultimately find their own happiness. Thank you for watching today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and share it with your friends. We look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to share your perspectives, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more exciting stories. See you next time.